In the endless churn of internet politics, where every live stream is both a confessional and a battlefield, authenticity has become the most coveted currency.
Oh, this guy's family was loaded. I didn't go through all the streams, I'm lazy, but somebody sent me his mom's like vlog from when she was younger. His mom like traveled the world. It's like she was gonna be like a fashion model or something, and had multiple houses like all over the world. It's just like his family was like insanely loaded. It was crazy. I don't know if they were like, it wouldn't be royalty. I have no idea.
Find that courage within you now, because we do have the number.
His dad was VP at the biggest company in Turkey. Yeah, but I don't think it was just his dad. I think his mom comes from like an extremely wealthy background as well. I think his whole family is like insanely wealthy. I don't know what her age was in this one. It wasn't always an easy and smooth ride. I had some pitfalls of my own, making along the way. I left for my summer vacation in Bodrum, determined to make new connections, and disappointment started to intrude on my otherwise joyous existence because I hadn't been able to meet all of our nearby neighbors. Demands of our own large household didn't leave much time to seek more company, but the hope of making new connections had metamorphosed into something else I didn't recognize at the time. The day before they were to leave for Istanbul, my mother-in-law's helper, Boston, asked me for one of my paintings. Mother-in-law's helper? Does that mean like servant or maid? Or I think this is translated from, is it Turkish? That's a language, right? I wonder what the original Turkish is on this, because I think this person sending me a Google translated article. My mother-in-law's helper, Bostan, asked me for one of my paintings. I stayed up half the night before they left to finish one of our view. The feeling I saw on her face when I gave it to her was priceless. She left with a promise to have a handmade collar, especially embroidered for me in Turkmenistan. This little exchange between two women who were basically strangers before they shared experiences, food, and laughter for 1 month under the same roof can be considered a way of connecting. Why did he say he had to buy that house in West Hollywood for his parents? Why did he say that? For my family? I feel like I've heard him say that multiple times. Wait, were these recipes? Trays. Fallen woman's kebab. My grandmother Olker's recipe. Dusmus Kadin Kebabi. The first time I visited my parents' hometown, Kilis, a small border city in southeastern Anatolia, I was about 9 or 10 years old. My maternal grandparents still kept a house there at the time, and it was one of the most incredible places I'd ever seen. You entered into an open courtyard that had the kitchen and several small rooms bordering it, and a door to a small backyard. And then there were stairs on the side wall that took you up to the family's living quarters. I felt like I was in a fairy tale house. It was so different than the cement blocks that we called home back in Istanbul. That trip was the first time I tasted this kebab. Yeah, anyway, his whole family is like insanely floated, I guess. Or they all live like fairy tale lives. For years, whenever she was already married here. For years, whenever my husband and I traveled anywhere, we used to have some major disagreements about the way we wanted to enjoy our vacation. I wanted to see as much as possible of whatever history and art the city had to offer, while he just wanted to find out about the nice restaurants and maybe take a scenic look at the city, try to get a feel for it, and that's it. My problem was I wanted to share all I saw with him. I wanted to get his opinion on what I saw and let it be a part of our combined experience. I used to plead and try to entice him into doing what I wanted until we ended up fighting. After a while, I realized he might not be interested in seeing all the museums of all the European cities we have traveled to, and he might just want to enjoy the city in his own way. Well, this is when she was living in New Jersey in 2006. I wasn't always a housewife. I had a promising career in fashion, retailing, until I had kids. Believe it or not, from the time I was a little girl, and none of my dreams for the future was there a house that I was cleaning or a family that I was picking up after. Most of my life, I felt like a visitor passing through without belonging to any place in particular. I would be forever getting ready for the next trip. When I was a teenager growing up in the States, I used to think that if we owned a summer house in Turkey, I would have a place and friends to call my own and feel a sense of normalcy somehow. While most of my friends were envious of my life of jet setting across the Atlantic back and forth, I always envied their simple summer plans of going away to the same place to be with the same family doing the same things. Even having a family didn't make a difference in my life. Now I was moving the whole family back and forth. These were the thoughts I always had to compete with as I agonized over our summer plans every single year. We never were able to create the stable atmosphere I had been longing for. Maybe due to the fact that we now live in New Jersey, we were finally able to realize this lifelong dream of mine and get a house in Bodrum this summer. Ironically, now it's the boys who want to make plans of staying put and living like a normal teenager, while we are dragging them here for their own good. I feel we have finally succeeded in creating the perfect atmosphere this summer of sharing good times with loved ones in one of the most beautiful parts of Turkey, a summer to remember and to repeat. We feel at home and a part of a community that we are already making plans to return to next year. This is due in part to some simple rituals we have established as a part of our life here. We go into Turgitrius every Saturday to have lunch. Monty, which is Turkish ravioli, especially prepared for us, Ali, the proprietor/chef, asks us early on in the week the only question of how many people will be this Saturday. So far, we have been there every week as a family with slight variations within the group. Nice. Jesus. Anyway, sorry. God, his mom lived like... I wonder what his dad's growing up was like. He doesn't have a blog or anything. Aw, she includes like cute pictures of the family. God. Okay. Why does any of this matter? I just hate people who LARP as poor people. It drives me crazy. And for some reason, Hassan acts like he didn't have one of the most insanely privileged upbringings, like, of all time. Like, his family is, like, royalty. This guy lived, like, one of the most, like, not even, like, upper class, but, like, royalty class. Like, this guy has, like, Turkish family that's, like, traveling and studying, like, all over the world in multiple homes, in multiple places. And, like, not even, like, his family's rich because his dad got lucky in business or made well in business, but, like, both his parents come from insanely rich backgrounds, too. Just curious, why would anyone want to LARP as a poor person? What exactly is the incentive? I don't know. People like to victimize themselves because when you get a little bit more credit, you get more patience, you get more credit for like the accomplishments you have. I don't know.
It's not enough to be correct or charismatic or even rich. You must appear real. Your pain, your past, your imperfections must serve as proof of moral credibility in the digital agora. This is where Destiny, the eternally rational gladiator of online discourse, stumbled upon a revelation that sent ripples through the internet's left-leaning ecosystem. It wasn't about policy or ideology or even a debate. It was about something far more intimate, the personal mythology of Hasan Piker, better known as Hasanabi, and the comfortable truth buried underneath the revolutionary aesthetic. The story begins not on Twitch or YouTube, but in the quiet archives of a family blog. It was written years ago, before streaming turned politics into a spectator sport. A journal kept by Hassan's mother, reflective, gentle, filled with anecdotes of summers in Bodrum, holidays in Europe, and the rhythms of an affluent transnational life between Turkey and the United States. When Destiny read excerpts from it on stream, his voice carried the mixture of fascination and contempt reserved for hypocrisy laid bare. The posts painted a portrait of a family not simply well off, but cocooned in comfort, traveling between continents, curating aesthetic moments, hosting help, collecting art, living in homes with names rather than addresses. And for Destiny, that discovery wasn't just gossip, it was evidence. Because if there's one thing Destiny despises more than ignorance, it's performative dishonesty. Hasanabi has long presented himself as the people's prince of the progressive internet. His streams are filled with calls for wealth redistribution, criticisms of capitalism, and heartfelt solidarity with the working class. Yet his lifestyle, $3 million home in West Hollywood, designer clothes, luxury cars, has always been the unspoken asterisk at the end of his socialist sermon. For years, his defense rested on a kind of moral algebra. Yes, he's rich, but he uses his platform to spread awareness. The comfort he enjoys, he insists, is a byproduct of success in a capitalist system he critiques, not an endorsement of it. His wealth, in this formulation, was incidental. Destiny, however, has never been content to let ideological neatness go unexamined. He's the sort of thinker who doesn't believe in tidy moral narratives, he believes in evidence. And what he found in those blog posts was not incidental wealth. It was inherited privilege, a generational security blanket that predated streaming, predated politics, even predated Hasan himself. The blog, written with the casual elegance of someone who had never needed to perform scarcity, read like an anthropology of affluence. Family trips to Europe, art and fashion aspirations, a father in executive leadership at one of Turkey's largest corporations, a mother whose restlessness came not from struggle, but from too much leisure. For Destiny, this revelation crystallized something he'd long suspected, that Hasan's political persona was not the product of lived class struggle, but of cosmetic empathy. The story of a revolutionary was, perhaps, just another costume change in a long lineage of performance. In online politics, the credibility of one's opinion is often indexed to one's perceived suffering. Those who have struggled are treated as having moral priority. Those who have not are viewed as interlopers, tourists in the land of hardship. Hasanabi, like many influencers who came of age in the aftermath of Occupy Wall Street, built his credibility on the mythos of alienation, the sense that he, too, had fought his way through the inequities of capitalism. The problem wasn't that he was wealthy. It was that he worked hard to conceal that wealth under the performative grime of relatability. Destiny's outrage was not the outrage of envy. It was the outrage of exposure. For years, he's been labeled as the liberal capitalist, the cold empiricist, the man who refuses to romanticize struggle. He's been accused of being detached, privileged, even elitist, precisely because he does not dress his ideas in the aesthetics of hardship. To watch Hasan posture as the proletarian prophet, when evidence showed a life spent in the luxury of transatlantic summers and multi-house comfort, was, for Destiny, the ultimate insult to intellectual honesty. What Destiny saw in that blog was not merely a contradiction. It was a symptom of a broader cultural disease, the fetishization of poverty as moral virtue. Socialism, in the influencer age, has become less a movement of solidarity and more a theater of self. Online, compassion often becomes a mirror, reflecting back the viewer's own goodness rather than confronting systems of exploitation. Hasan's brand of leftism fits neatly into this economy of feeling. It's not the granular technocratic socialism of policy experts or organizers. It's an aesthetic socialism, a luxury belief performed for an audience that craves the righteousness of rebellion without the discomfort of revolution. When Destiny read through those blog entries, he wasn't just attacking a streamer, he was diagnosing an entire subculture of moral posturing. The influencer left thrives on curated vulnerability and selective confession. The rich are not punished for their privilege as long as they perform contrition in public. And no one performs better than Hasanabi. The details from Hasan's family background were almost cinematic. Parents with executive titles. Summers in seaside villas. A life defined not by scarcity, but by abundance. His mother's blog spoke with the soft melancholy of someone burdened by too much experience, the restlessness of privilege, not the anxiety of precarity. Destiny's anger came from a simple place, the moral dishonesty of erasing this background to craft a relatable persona. In his mind, wealth itself isn't shameful. What's shameful is lying about it. This is where the two men diverge most sharply, not ideologically, but ethically. Destiny's entire persona is built on the idea that truth matters more than narrative. For Hasan, narrative is the currency. His socialism is cinematic, romantic, sometimes incoherent, but always emotionally satisfying. Destiny's realism doesn't permit such fictions. There's something uniquely grotesque about the way modern influencers transform political commitment into brand identity. On Twitch and YouTube, politics isn't about persuasion, it's about aesthetic coherence. The streamer must look like what they preach. Hasanabi mastered this art form. His room is a curated museum of authenticity, neutral tones, soft lighting, and just enough imperfection to seem real. He dresses like a street poet, speaks like a revolutionary, and lives like a celebrity. Destiny, by contrast, has always embraced the friction between his ideas and his image. He doesn't pretend to be proletarian. He doesn't soften his privilege or dramatize his hardships. He sees no contradiction in defending capitalism from a gaming chair worth more than a month's rent for most Americans.